Okay, imagine this. A classroom where teachers suddenly find they have, I don't know, hours back in their week.
Hmm. Time freed up from all that admin.
Exactly. More time for actual teaching, for engaging with students, or maybe picture a student getting like perfectly tailored feedback instantly.
Sounds amazing. But then you've got the flip side.
Right. How do you actually bring that kind of, well, power into every school, every college safely? It's complex.
Very.
So welcome everyone to a deep dive. We're looking at a new policy paper from gov.uk, just updated this month, Juneteenth, 2025. It's called Generative Artificial Intelligence, AI in Education.
And our mission today really is to unpack what the UK Department for Education, the DfE, is saying about this tech. It's moving so fast.
It really is. We'll dig into the opportunities, and they are huge, but also the significant challenges, and crucially, the official guidance on using it safely and effectively in schools and colleges across England.
So if you're trying to get your head around what generative AI means for learning, for teaching, maybe the future of education,
And you want to do that quickly but properly.
you're definitely in the right place.
Okay, let's get into it. So, first things first. What is generative AI? We hear the term all the time.
Yeah, it's everywhere. The DfE paper clarifies it pretty well. It's a specific type of AI, and the key thing is that it creates new content.
New content, okay.
Yeah, based on these huge data sets it's been trained on. Think of tools like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot.
Google Gemini.
Those are the main ones people know.
Yeah.
And they're built on what we call large language models, LLMs.
Right, LLM.
These are like foundation models. They're trained on just enormous amounts of data, which lets them understand and, importantly, generate text that sounds really human.
So it's the production of new stuff that's the leap forward, not just
Yeah.
spotting patterns, which AI has done for ages.
Precisely. And the range of what they can produce is, well, it's quite something. The paper lists things like answering questions, writing essays or reports.
Generating images, code.
Yeah, text, code, images, responding to prompts in a way that feels, very natural.
And it's not just text, is it?
No, good point. There are other kinds of generative AI emerging, things that can produce audio, simulations, even video content.
Wow. So AI itself isn't new then. We use
Uh,
it all the time without maybe thinking about it.
Absolutely. Your email spam filter, that's AI. Movie recommendations, sat navs,
Online chatbots.
all AI. But it's this ability to generate original-seeming content that really shakes things up for education. Creates the opportunities, but also the big challenges.
And the DfE, they definitely see the opportunities. The paper mentions their commitment to this AI opportunities action plan.
Yeah, they're quite clear on AI's potential to improve public services generally. And they link it to their plan for change and this opportunity mission they talk about.
So what's the core benefit they see for education specifically?
It really boils down to this. AI isn't about replacing teachers. It's about freeing them up, helping them focus on what they do best, which is teaching.
By cutting down the admin burden.
Exactly. Reducing the load for teachers, support staff, school leaders. The idea is to transform education by letting teachers teach more.
I can imagine that would be a huge relief. A teacher I know is saying marking and feedback alone takes up like a quarter of her week.
Wow, yeah. So if AI can genuinely help with that,
The paper lists some practical uses, doesn't it? Creating resources.
yep, lesson planning, curriculum planning support, tailored feedback, revision activities for students.
And those admin tasks, of course, plus supporting personalized learning.
Right. All of this, the DfE says, frees up teachers' time for that excellent teaching we want. And interestingly, they seem to think the benefits are clearer and the risks lower when it's teachers using AI rather than students directly.
Teacher-facing use seems safer initially anyway.
That seems to be their current thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
More immediate benefits, fewer risks.
Okay, but that ideal classroom, the one where AI just helps seamlessly, it obviously comes with big warnings. The paper makes that clear. How realistically can schools manage all these risks, though, especially if budgets are tight?
That's a really important point. And the DfE hammers this home. The evidence is still, well, emerging. We don't fully know the impact of AI on how kids learn, their results, and crucially, their safety.
So we're still learning about the long-term effects.
Absolutely, we just don't have all the answers yet, which is why they're urging caution.
And the actual content these AI tools produce, that can be problematic too.
Oh, definitely. The paper flags specific worries. The content can be inaccurate, could be inappropriate, maybe even unsafe.
Bias as well.
Biased, yes. Taken out of context. It might use material without permission. That's a whole IP can of worms.
Intellectual property, right.
Plus, it can just be out of date, unreliable, or frankly, just not very good quality compared to human-created stuff.
Why does that happen? Why is the output sometimes so flawed?
A few reasons. First, the results depend entirely on the data the AI was trained on. That data might not match up with, say, the specific curriculum you're teaching.
That makes sense.
Also a big one, generative AI learns from the data you feed it. So if you put personal information in,
Uh-oh. Privacy alarm bells?
big time, that raises serious privacy issues. And the outputs, they often just don't measure up to carefully designed curriculum-specific resources made by experts.
And then there's the really tricky bit, the hallucination.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
can generate stuff that sounds totally convincing, but is just false, made up. That's hallucination. Or it might be nonsensical. Or, worryingly, it could even give instructions for illegal or harmful things,
Like what?
like generating really believable scam emails, things that look like they come from the school, perhaps.
Wow. Okay, that's a serious risk. So how are schools supposed to deal with AI that can convincingly lie? And if they do let students use it, what are the absolute must-dos legally?
Well, legally, they have to stick to their responsibilities around data protection, keeping children safe in education. That's the big statutory guidance and intellectual property law. Those don't go away.
So no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. But underpinning all of that is professional judgment. The DfE really stresses this. Teachers, leaders, staff, they have to critically look at anything AI produces. Is it appropriate? Is it accurate?
The human check is vital.
Absolutely vital. The ultimate responsibility for the quality, the content that stays with the human professional and the school. The paper says it very clearly. Generative AI cannot replace the judgment and deep subject knowledge of a human expert.
Okay, so safeguarding, data protection, all the existing rules, they fully apply to AI. It's not some separate zone. How does the DfE then guide schools on using it safely, effectively?
It is absolutely number one. That's the top priority. Any use has to be thought through really carefully. The benefits must outweigh the risks, especially, of course, for pupils under 18.
And risk assessments are key.
Essential. Schools need proper risk assessments, and these need to cover things like how to stop unauthorized uses.
Like the scam email example.
Exactly. Thinking through how students might misuse it, even if unintentionally, and having a plan to mitigate that.
So schools do get to choose how they use it, though, like just for teachers or maybe for students in certain lessons.
Yes, they have that autonomy. They can decide their own approach. Maybe it's just teachers using it for admin, or perhaps students use it. But, and this is the crucial part, only with proper safeguards.
What kind of safeguards?
Things like close supervision, definitely.
Oh.
And using tools that actually have safety features, built-in filtering, monitoring capabilities.
Right. And there's a checklist of things they need to comply with, referencing existing guidance.
Yes, there's a sort of compliance checklist. They've got to follow the age restrictions of the AI tools themselves. Very important. They need to weave AI online safety into their existing safeguarding policies.
Okay.
They absolutely must consult Keeping Children Safe in Education, the statutory guidance. It's not just about physical safety. The DfE is making it clear those principles extend fully to the online world and AI.
So filtering,
Referencing the DfE's expectations for AI product safety and the standards for filtering and monitoring in schools. And there's a cybersecurity warning, too. AI can make phishing attacks and scams much more sophisticated.
something IT teams need to be very aware of.
Definitely. Schools might also need to look again at their homework policies, rules for unsupervised study, develop clear guidance for staff, students, and talk to parents about it all.
Lots to think about there. Any other resources mentioned?
Yeah, the National Cybersecurity Center, the NCSC, has some useful articles, one on ChatGPT and LM as risks, another on machine learning principles. Good background reading.
Okay, that leads us nicely into using AI responsibly, particularly around data privacy and intellectual property. These feel like major hurdles.
They are huge areas, especially for schools handling sensitive student information. Data privacy is absolutely critical.
What's the main message there?
The DfE's strong recommendation is basically, don't use personal data in these generative AI tools if you can possibly avoid it.
Just don't put it in.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, if for some reason using personal data is absolutely necessary, then you must take every possible step to protect it. Comply fully with data protection law, follow your privacy policies to the letter.
And be open about it.
Transparency is key, yes. Schools need to be clear if they're using automated decision-making involving personal data, and they generally need agreement from the people involved, pupils, or usually their parents or guardians.
Is there specific guidance on this?
Yes, the DfE points to their own data protection in schools guidance, which covers AI, and also guidance from the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, particularly on automated decision-making involving children.
Okay, so data privacy is complex but clear. Avoid personal data, if possible. What about intellectual property? You said that was a can of worms.
It really can be. Uh, Fundamentally, copyright law applies. Material that's protected by copyright, and that includes a lot of stuff, can only be used to train AI if the copyright owner gives permission or if there's a specific legal exception.
And what counts as copyrighted material in a school context?
Well, potentially a lot. Essays students write, their homework, drawings, art projects, teachers' lesson plans. Even the prompts someone types into an AI tool could, technically, have copyright protection. The bar for originality is generally quite low.
So even a student's prompt could be theirs. And how does that work with all these free AI tools that learn from everything you type in? Can schools realistically get permission for all that?
That's the really tricky part. A lot of the free tools do use your inputs to train their models further. Some paid versions might let you opt out of that. But the DfE is clear. Schools must not let original student work be used to train AI models unless they have explicit permission.
Permission from the student.
From the student, yes, because they own the copyright in their work. Or, if they're a minor, from their parent or legal guardian. It's a legal requirement, even if it's practically challenging.
That's a massive point for schools to understand. And you mentioned secondary infringement risk earlier. What's that about?
Yeah, this is another potential pitfall. Imagine an AI tool was trained, maybe illegally, on lots of copyrighted books or images without permission.
Okay.
Then, a school uses that tool maybe to generate text for its website or an image for a newsletter. If that output contains elements of the unlicensed material it was trained on,
The school could be in trouble, even if they didn't know.
they could potentially be liable for secondary copyright infringement, yes, for using or publishing infringing material, even unknowingly. It's a complex legal area the DfEs is definitely flagging. Higher education institutions also need to think carefully about managing intellectual assets.
Are there resources for understanding copyright better?
Yes, the paper points to guidance like how copyright protects your work, general government info on copyright, and importantly, the government's own code of practice on copyright and AI. Plus, the ICO guidance on AI and data protection is relevant here too.
Okay, moving beyond the direct use in teaching and learning, what about formal assessments? And the regulators like Ofsted and Ofqual, how are they fitting AI into their picture?
Well, the baseline is that schools, colleges, and the awarding bodies, the exam boards, they all have to keep preventing cheating or malpractice, and that now includes misuse of generative AI.
Makes sense. Is there guidance on what counts as misuse?
Yes, the Joint Council for Qualifications, the JCQ, they have put out guidance specifically for teachers and exam centers. It covers how to prevent and spot AI misuse, gives examples of what constitutes malpractice, outlines requirements, and even discusses AI potentially being used in marking or in detection tools.
So the exam system is adapting. What about Ofsted inspections? How are they looking at AI?
Ofsted seems supportive of AI, where it genuinely helps improve education or care. They'll assess how schools or colleges are using AI based on their existing inspection frameworks. There isn't like a separate AI inspection checklist.
So they look at the impact.
Exactly. Interestingly, Ofsted is also exploring using AI for its own work. Things like helping with risk assessment, maybe automating some tasks, generating insights from data. But they stress it must align with principles like safety, fairness, transparency, accountability.
Okay. And Ofqual, regulating the qualifications themselves.
Their main priority is ensuring AI use in the qualification sector is safe and appropriate. They don't want it threatening fairness or undermining public confidence in qualifications.
So maintaining integrity.
Precisely. Their regulatory stance covers managing those malpractice risks we talked about, how AI might be used in marking by awarding bodies, and also things like AI and remote invigilation, making sure it's all fair and robust.
So looking ahead now, the DfE isn't just setting rules. They seem to be actively investing in AI's future in education.
Yes, definitely. The UK government is putting money behind this. For example, they've funded Oak National Academy, which provides lots of online lessons to develop specific AI tools for teachers.
Like what kind of tools?
Well, one called Ayla, which is described as an AI-powered lesson assistant. The aim is to speed up lesson planning, help reduce teacher workload.
That sounds promising. Any other investments?
Yeah, there's a £3 million pilot for a content store, funded by a different department, DSIT. The idea is to provide good quality foundational content and data that AI tools could then use safely.
So better training data.
Hopefully, yeah. And the DFE also has innovation funding through an AI Tools for Education competition, specifically looking for tools to help reduce the burden of feedback and marking.
So, tangible support. What about training for teachers? That must be crucial. You mentioned it was a key request.
Absolutely crucial. And yes, the DFE heard that loud and clear from their call for evidence. They're responding by developing a proper training package, putting together online resources, and creating a collaborative online toolkit for educators.
To help them navigate all this complexity.
Exactly. And to help schools make good choices about technology, they're also piloting something called an EdTech Evidence Board. The idea is to properly assess the actual impact of different EdTech tools.
Based on evidence, not just hype.
That's the goal. Provide robust data so schools can make informed decisions.
And are they looking closely at what's actually happening in schools that are already using AI?
Yes, they're funding an Ofsted study specifically to do that, to gather insights from schools and colleges that are early adopters, looking at how they're managing AI use, what impact they're seeing, what risks they're encountering.
Learning from the ground up.
Right. And they emphasize ongoing engagement, talking to young people, parents, teachers, experts, to really think through the implications and make sure the computing curriculum keeps up.
And underlying all this tech talk.
The human element. The DFE reiterates this foundational point. Technology, including generative AI, should not replace the valuable relationship between teachers and pupils.
That feels like a really important anchor point.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, that was quite a journey through the UK government's current thinking on generative AI in education. We've hit the opportunities, the very real challenges, the guidance on safe and responsible use, especially around data and IP.
The role of the regulators like JCQ, Ofsted, Ofqual.
Right, and looked at the future investments and support being put in place by the DfE. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. It's a complex landscape, but
Yeah.
so important. And maybe here's something to think about. Given how fast AI is moving and all this guidance we've just discussed,
Oh,
how might our very idea of digital literacy for students need to change? Is it still just about knowing how to use the tech?
or is it becoming something more?
Exactly. Is it increasingly about being able to critically evaluate what AI produces, understanding the ethics, the legal side of it, and maybe even about learning how to create responsibly with these incredibly powerful tools? That feels like a big question for all of us involved in education.
That's a really profound thought to leave us with. Not just using it, but understanding it, critiquing it, creating with it responsibly. And these principles we've talked about, thinking about AI in schools, they really do apply much more broadly, don't they? In our jobs, our workplaces, even just how we use these tools in our own lives. Lots to chew on there. We really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas.